listener production.
Hi everyone, Sacha Barbour Gatt here with you for this afternoon episode of The Briefing. News broke this morning that King Charles has been diagnosed with cancer and is starting treatment straight away. Buckingham Palace also confirmed he'd be stepping down from public duties, but is wholly positive about his treatment and looks forward to getting back into the swing of things soon. While hopes are high for the monarch's future health, concerns have been raised in the hours since about Australia's lack of regency laws, which cover what happens if the reigning monarch becomes incapacitated. The UK has the Regency Act of 1937. Under that legislation, Prince William would step up as acting monarch. Canada and New Zealand also have similar laws, but Australia doesn't. One of the people speaking out about this is Rex Patrick, a former independent senator and self-proclaimed transparency warrior. Rex, thanks so much for joining us on The Briefing today. Look, we know from the Queen's passing that if a ruling monarch passes away, that the line of succession kicks in and then it goes to the next royal in line. So that's not really the issue that we're here to talk about today. We're talking specifically about what happens when a king or queen who is currently ruling becomes incapacitated for whatever reason and hasn't actually handed the reins over to someone else. So with all of that said, could you explain to us what regency laws actually are?
Yeah. Hey, great to be on the show and happy to be talking about this issue. I'm not an expert on it, but it is a matter that I raised when I was a senator because I had some concerns about Queen Elizabeth because of her age. I didn't quite expect us to be in a situation like we are today. Regency laws basically provide a pathway for someone to take over from the monarch in circumstances where they haven't passed but are in actual fact incapacitated for a period of time. We can go back to the 1800s where in actual fact the UK had a Prince Regent for 9 years whilst one of the kings was in actual fact incapacitated. The regency laws in the UK were brought about in circumstances where King George IV was ill or looked like he might become incapacitated, and so laws were passed in the UK to deal with that circumstance.
Okay, so we understand what they are. They make sense on the top level of things. We should probably have these laws in place, but we don't. Why is that?
It's a really interesting question. It's something that our officials have known about for some considerable period of time. Questions were raised in the Parliament more than a decade ago about this, and in fact, I raised questions about it in the last Parliament. No one seems to want to talk about it. Interestingly, in a recent FOI that I did looking at the fate of the Republic, noting we have a minister assigned to that particular role, and you know, the reality is that is now, as a result of The Voice, dead as a dodo. That FOI revealed that there was some recent discussion about this. But we might find ourselves in the embarrassing situation where if for some reason, and we hope this doesn't happen, but if for some reason King Charles becomes incapacitated, the UK have a mechanism by which they can appoint Prince William to be the regent, to act as the monarch, and indeed Canada and New Zealand would have laws in place that would then reflect the choices that have been made in the UK. We have nothing, and that leaves us legally without a monarch. Now, people might say, what's the importance of that? You know, we've got a Governor-General, everything should be okay. But just giving a simple example as to, you know, one of the things we might need a monarch for, and that is the appointment of a new Governor-General. That's a very simple case. And if there's no monarch, that can't happen. There may be other uses of prerogative power by the Governor-General, which he would normally consult with the monarch. And I won't purport to understand what they are. There are constitutional experts who are a better place to do that. But there may be other circumstances in which direct access to a monarch is required. And if the monarch is incapacitated and we don't have a regent, it leaves us in an awful position. This issue is significant enough that laws have been passed in the UK, in New Zealand, in Canada. We just haven't got around to it here.
Is it hard to pass these laws? Because in my mind, it seems like one of those things, and I get it, you go, oh, what's the likelihood of that really happening? How bad could it possibly be? Until it happens, and then you're in the position where you're going, oh, crap, we don't have a Governor General and we can't get any legislation through. Is it difficult? Is that why no politicians touched it?
Oh, look, in some sense, issues around the monarch are private issues generally. This is not an important thing until it's important. Hopefully it doesn't arise, but King Charles's prognosis, sadly with cancer, draws our attention to this already in the UK. Even though the statement from Buckingham Palace said that he would continue performing his legal functions, already they've started the conversation about Prince William. So we don't have this, and in order to implement some legislation in this regard, there would need to be consultation with the states, because each of the states have their own crown, even though it's the same person. But it may even involve the need to alter the constitution, which requires us to go through a process which has time lags. So we know from the recent attempt to change the constitution, there's a time period between when a proposal is made by the parliament to change the constitution and when the vote occurs. So there's all sorts of issues if indeed the constitution does have to change. And I suspect, but I'm not an expert on this, I suspect that it would, in order to be able to cater for a regent.
Okay. So you brought it up a little bit before, but do you think that this scenario, what you just explained to me, sounded like a whole lot of paperwork and votes and going through the states, sound like a rigmarole? And I understand becoming a republic isn't easy either, but does an incident like this signify the weaknesses of being under a monarchy and the favourability of being in a republic?
Oh, look, I think it's probably separate from that issue. I mean, I'm in favour of a republic, and always the difficulty when you shift to a republic is what's the model that you use and how does it all work? And it may be that you can make a mess or have a flaw in that particular regime that doesn't cater for all circumstances. So really this is just not so much a choice about whether we have a monarch, whether we have a president. It's about what happens when the monarch or the president is incapacitated.
Okay, so let's say that the truly unfortunate incident, and I just want to clarify, we're, not speculating about King Charles's health. It's more that his diagnosis has sparked these questions of, well, we haven't actually talked about this. So let's say the truly unfortunate incident happens, King Charles, for whatever reason, becomes incapacitated. What happens here in Australia from that outset? We obviously don't have the laws in place now. I know we have the Governor General. So do things just keep running really as normal? Like, can we kind of see the benefit of not wasting our time going through the legislative process when, maybe the Governor General will just be fine and we can keep going as is?
Well, as I used to say at tribunals, I'm not a lawyer. I just make laws. When I was a senator, look, it's complicated. I don't know the implications, for example, of the fact that we have a Governor General who represents the monarch in circumstances where that monarch has been declared incapacitated. There are 5 people in the UK that are rather obscure people, including Queen Camilla, the Lord Chancellor, the Master of the Roll. People we've never heard of will make a choice about won't make a choice about who will be the regent. That will in fact be Prince William, but someone has to be able to make the declaration that the king is incapacitated. And when that occurs, I just don't know what the legal implications are when you have a representative of someone who is incapacitated. And again, there may be certain times where we actually need to have a monarch. I used the example before, to appoint a Governor-General or to exercise some prerogative power, and we simply won't have a monarch available to do that.
Before we let you go, Rex, do you think that the King's diagnosis and this subsequent conversation could light a fire under our pollies to maybe act and do something on regency laws?
Well, as I said, there was an FOI that I did on the Republic that showed that this had been talked about. And indeed, last month, I put in a second FOI to get access to what had been said. So, very shortly I may be in a position to better inform the public. But one would hope that this will in fact raise the temperature on this issue and make people think seriously about how we get rid of this little flaw that's in our current constitution and statute arrangement, where we don't have the ability to declare or have a regent in place of the monarch.
Yeah, well, we'll be keeping an eye on it as well. I do think that a lot of people will be a little bit more interested in these regency laws. And, it's not a sexy topic, but it's one of those things that we need as a country that lives under a monarchy. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. We appreciate it.
You're most welcome.
That was former Independent Senator Rex Patrick. And that is all we have time for today. We will be back in your feed from 6 a.m. tomorrow and bringing you an interview with the Minister for Women, Katie Gallagher, over what Labor's proposed tax cuts mean for women. And if you would like to get in touch with us here at The Briefing, maybe you've got an episode idea or there's something you'd like to have your say on, please do get in touch. You can head to our Instagram page and send us a message. Just search The Briefing. We'll be back tomorrow. Thanks for listening. I'm Sacha Barbour Gatt.